Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us continue with the chapter Diversity in Living Organisms. This is the 15th theory session of this chapter, and till now I have explained to you about the basic characteristic features of 5 kingdoms, right? And what are these 5 kingdoms? The kingdom Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia, right? Uh, in the earlier session, I explained to you that what are those general features which are compared in animals for their subclassification. In the previous some of the sessions, I have explained the subclassification of Plantae, isn't it? Now we have to study about the animals. So for animals, as there is a criteria for the plants for their subclassification, similarly there should be some features or some criteria so as to classify the animals, right? And that is what I'm going to begin in this particular session. Now, after knowing the basic features, let us see how these features are compared or how these varies with the respective different phylum or subphylum and so on. Right? So let us see some charts so as to understand the classification of the kingdom Animalia. You know very well that which type of organisms are known as the animals, right? Animals are those organisms which are made up of eukaryotic cells. Then further, they are heterotrophic in nature. Their cells, they always lack the cell wall, right? And besides this, the organisms are motile. In the earlier kingdom, that is in the Plantae, the organisms, they were completely non-motile, right? They do not move from one place to another. But now this is the specific feature of this particular kingdom. Besides this, such organisms, they can be unicellular or they can be multicellular, right? So due to confusion, these unicellular eukaryotic organisms, right, of course the heterotrophic, they were separated from the kingdom Animalia and they all were placed in the group Protista. So here in this chart, I'm showing you the subclassification of kingdom Animalia in which the organisms are multicellular. Fine. So depending upon this cellularity, basically these organisms, they are I'm sorry, not on the basis of cellularity. It is not only the number of cells, but according to other particular features also, right? Like the body organization, the whether the organisms are having cellular level of organization or tissue or so on, right? So depending on these basic features that we have studied in the earlier session, these organisms, they are classified into 2 subkingdoms, and that 2 subkingdoms are number 1 parazoa and the second one is the metazoa. Parazoa includes organisms which are multicellular, sedentary, and they have the cellular level of organization, right? In this case, I've said that they are multicellular, so there is no confusion in this that they are made up of more than single cell. They are made up of many cells. Sedentary means what? They are not motile. They are fixed on some substratum and they are living on that support. Right. And besides this, they are having a cellular level of organization. That means what? The tissues or different type of parts or this differentiation has not taken place in such type of organisms. And such type of group or such type of organisms, they constitute a single phylum which is known as the phylum Porifera. So the very first phylum that we will study later is the phylum Porifera. The next is metazoa, and this metazoa includes those particular organisms which are multicellular. They are generally mobile. Mostly they are mobile, but some exceptions may be there. Then besides this, now the differentiation has occurred in these particular organisms. Differentiation in terms of what? Differentiation of cells into tissues or organs or the organ systems and so on. right? And of course the degree of differentiation, the degree of its development varies from one group to the another. Fine. And on this basis, that how much development is there, what type of organization is there, these organisms are further subclassified. Besides this body organization, of course there are other features also which varies with the successive phylum or the successive group. Besides this, these organisms, they can be subclassified again, and they are actually subclassified on the basis of important characteristic, and that characteristic is the presence or the absence of the structure notochord. Notochord is a rod-like structure that basically separates the nervous tissue from the gut tissue, and it may be present in these organisms or it may be absent. If it is absent, then that group is known as non-chordata, and if it is present, then it is known as the chordata. So here these non-chordates, they are of different types. So there are different types of non-chordates, like they are phylum Coelenterata, Platyhelminths, Nematohelminths, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, and Echinodermata. All these are non-chordates. These are the phylums which are not having the notochord. Besides this, the another next phylum is Chordata, in which now the notochord is present. Now it is present here. Now, if of course initially it will appear as a primitive structure, so depending upon the development, depending upon its development, again it is these organisms fall in two different groups, that is Protochordata and Vertebrata. So for now we are going to study about these non-chordate phylums. In this definitely we have to study about different features, so that we can clearly understand that how this hierarchy is established. Hierarchy in terms of characteristic features, hierarchy in terms of complexity, right? And definitely to understand this complexity, we have to compare the basic general features, the general characteristic features that we have studied in the earlier session. So even this phylum porifera, even it is a non-chordate. So let me explain that how this complexity varies among these groups, and then I will explain you the specific features of each phylum. So students, the complexity in these animals, it varies in terms of course, this number of cells and their organization. But beside these characters, the other feature or that other complexity that occurs in the further successive these groups is based on the development of organisms. Now, whether these organisms they are developed from two germ layers or three germ layers, that varies among the different types of organisms. Right. So the pattern of its development is the next complex feature that is helping in the classification of these particular organisms. Fine. Besides this, the body symmetry is the next feature that could be compared here. Fine. Next part is the body cavity. See, when the development is taking place from these germ layers, these organisms, they show some space between the layers. So whether this space is really present or not, or it is well separated from the other, or like that, it is divided into further different categories. There are different types of cavity, and of course this it occurs in a developmental form only. Initially there is no cavity, further it may be present but not well separated. So this way a hierarchy is generated, and whether it occur in what form it occurs in animals is the criteria to classify the organisms. Further, the physiology or the development of different parts of bodies, that is further also compared. So let me just give you some hint or these basic comparison between these particular groups, or in short I can say, let me tell you that these phylums that I have shown you in the earlier slide, what type of characters or complex features they are having. See, initially, this animal kingdom is classified on the basis of the number of cells. They are unicellular animals and there are multicellular animals. Unicellular animals, of course, it has been further later on placed in the kingdom, that is Protista, right? And that is actually known as protozoa. So we can study this protozoa in the animal kingdom as a unicellular animal. Fine. Then if the animals are multicellular, as I already said, that these cells, whether they are organized into tissues or other developed forms or not. So that is the next way. So if it is showing the cellular grade, then you know which particular group is going to be will have this particular type of feature. Well, I mentioned this in the earlier slide, isn't it? So such a group where there is the cellular grade of organization is the porifera. Fine. Next, if it is showing the tissue or organ grade organization, then whether in these particular organisms the development is taking from two germ layers or from three germ layers. So these organisms, they can be diploblastic or triploblastic. In short, I can say the organisms that develop from two different layers, that group is known as diploblastica. So this diploblastica is the division of this subkingdom. What is another division? The next branch is the triploblastica, right? Triploblastic means development from three layers, right? And organisms which are having this type of features, they would be known as triploblastica. Similarly, division is also on the basis of the body symmetry. Symmetry, you know, it's a arrangement of organisms arrangement of body design, whether it is equivalent in different planes or not, right? I explained you earlier. See, it can be either radial, or it can be bilateral, or it can be asymmetric also. Asymmetric, from any plane the body is not equivalent. From any plane, if you cut, the parts are not symmetric at all. Whereas in the case of radial symmetry, what is there? These organisms, in any plane, if we divide the organism, right, in a radial form, of course, so each part is going to be equivalent to the another one, right? And such radial symmetry and the diploblastic nature that is found in the group or the phylum Coelenterata. Whereas if the organisms they are belonging to these particular divisions, that is triploblastica and bilateria. You know what is bilateria? That means on the bilateral symmetry, in which the body can be subdivided. It can be divided into what through the vertical plane, and each left and right part is going to be equivalent to each other. Such symmetry is known as bilateral symmetry, and the organisms having this type of symmetry is known as bilateria. So these triploblastic bilateria, these organisms, they are now further classified or subclassified on the basis of type of body cavity. Whether they are having a cavity or they are not having cavity, or there is a true type of cavity. You remember the difference between these three types of cavity? Like it can be acoelomate, right? That means there is no body cavity. Although the development is from triploblast, I mean three germ layers, but still there is no body cavity. That means the space in the body wall, right, is filled up with the mesenchyme. There are three layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. So the space between these meso and the endoderm, that is filled up with the tissue mesenchyme, and hence there is no cavity, right? So such organisms, they are placed or they are constituting the phylum Platyhelminths. Then comes your next one, that is Eskelminths, or they are known as nematoda. So these nematoda, they are having pseudocoelom, right? That means false body cavity is present. That means the body cavity is present, but it is not lined up with mesoderm. It is not well separated from the endoderm, right? And next is the true coelomic cavity, and this true coelomic cavity is It means that the true or well developed cavity is there, which is separated by the mesodermal layer, right, or it is lined up with the mesodermal tissue. Now such type of features are present in a group. Now further they have to be subclassified, and that subclassification is done on the basis of the fate of blastopore. I hope you know what is this blastopore. See, in the earlier classes, you must have studied that when the reproduction takes place, initially after fertilization, the zygote is produced. This zygote, it undergoes cell division, and then they are forming a group of cells which is known as blastula. Then there is a cavity generated, and there is an opening over there in such a structure, and that opening is known as the blastopore. So, in some organisms, this blastopore is developed into mouth, and in some other, it is developed later on in the anus. So, depending upon this type of fate, that blastopore is whether forming the mouth or it is forming the anus. That means it is present in the posterior side or in the in the anterior side or in the posterior side. That is constituting this type of subdivision, that is protostomia and deuterostomia. So this protostomia is shown by the this character is shown by the phylum Annelida and phylum Arthropoda. Deuterostomia, it is shown by the Echinodermata and phylum Chordata. So this is how these initial phylums that I have just explained you in the earlier chart, how they are showing the level of complexity, how this level of complexity is increasing from this simple porifera to the group Echinodermata, and of course then the Chordata. So now let us discuss about the specific features of all these groups. Till now I have just correlated the basic features of the animals and how they are becoming complex from one group to the next one. So now let me explain the specific features of the group Porifera. So students, the very first phylum that we are going to discuss here is the phylum Porifera. Porifera, you know what is the meaning of this word? Porifera is comprised of two different terms. That is, number one, pori. Pori means what? Pores or holes. And the second term, fera, it means to bear. So these animals, these multicellular simple animals, they are actually bearing the holes all over their body surface. Their entire body surface is having these different holes over there. And you know, these organisms, they are actually the most simple primitive multicellular organisms. Commonly they are known as the sponges. You might have heard about this name, right? So these particular sponges or the poriferans, they are living in the water bodies. They are aquatic. Their habitat is water or aquatic region. And definitely all these organisms, they are found in the marine region. That means they are found in the saline water. Some exceptions are there which are living even in the fresh water, but most of them, right, most of them are found in the saline water. The next point regarding the sponges is that they are sessile, sedentary and non-motile. You know what these three terms mean? See, we will not go in so much depth about it, as we have already discussed in the earlier session when I discussed about the general features of animals, right? See, these terms will be repetitively coming in the further sessions. So you must understand the meaning of these terms, and that's why that earlier session was recorded, right? Anyways, sessile means what? The body is thallus-like, right? It is a stalk-like structure, which is not even having the foot, right? So it is simple stalk-like structure, and such body is known as sessile, right? Thallus-like body which is lacking the foot. Further, they are sedentary. Sedentary means what? They are fixed at a particular substratum. They are not free living. They are uh, they are having a base, and that means which is known as a substratum, and over that substratum they are growing. So further, as they are fixed at a particular position, and therefore we can say that these organisms are non-motile. That means they cannot move from one place to the another. Their position is fixed, right? And if therefore these are actually some they are showing some exception here with respect to the animal kingdom, and therefore I say that these are the most simplest animals. Fine. As we know that all animals are motile. This motility is a specific feature of the animals, but here these organisms are exclusively non-motile. However, such type of feature occurs in some other higher groups also, but that is of course limited, right? Anyways, the next characteristic feature of this group is that they are having asymmetric body. And I hope you understand what we mean by this asymmetric body. Asymmetric body means their body design is irregular. In any plane, if we try to divide this organism into two halves, right, it is not possible from any plane, and thus they are having irregular structure or irregular shape, and hence they are said to known as asymmetric organisms, or the body is said to have the asymmetry, right? It is asymmetric in nature. Further, they are having the cellular level of organization. So now this should be very clear to you. Cellular level of organization means what? In them, there is a means tissue formation is very less. Even I'm not wrong that if I say that tissue development is almost very negligible. Other terms, if we just observe different type of sponges, then you can say it is minimized. There is a minimum level of tissue formation. So these organisms, they show the acellular grade of this organization. Fine. Why I'm saying this acellular here? The reason is because no tissue, no organ, and nothing. Simply the cellular level is there. Fine. Next point is acoelomate. Their body cavity is, the body cavity is absent. Now, can you link these two things here? The level of organization and the body cavity. Initially, I said they show the cellular level of organization. There is very less tissue formation, right? If there is no tissue formation, definitely they are neither diploblastic nor they are triploblastic. And if such a thing is not there, that means this distinction between the germ layers is not there, or the development from germ layers is not there, then definitely we should say that cavity will not be there. What is the coelom? What is this body cavity? It is a space between the endoderm and the ectoderm, right? I'm sorry, this endoderm and the mesoderm, right? So if there is no tissue formation, you cannot expect this type of cavity over there. So here this development is limited, and of course the body cavity is also absent. But the cavity is not the cavity is actually present, but that cavity is not related to these germ layers. Rather, they are having the inner general cavity or the space over there, and that cavity is known as the spongocoel. Spongo related to the word sponges, and coel for the coelom or the cavity. So the cavity which is present in these sponges is known as the spongocoel. Well, such question come in your exams for 1 marker. You know that what is the name of this cavity in the porifera group? So that answer should be spongocoel. It can come in MCQs also. Fine. Anyways, the next point is that these organisms, their body is porous, right? As the name itself is suggesting that pores are present all over the surface. Now these pores, they are not merely present as these holes over there, but they help in performing the most important functions of these organisms. In these organisms, I'm sorry, these pores, they lead to the formation of canal system, and this canal system, it helps in bringing inside the water, right? These organisms are aquatic, isn't it? And you know, when there is pores over there, so definitely they can circulate the water in their body. And as this water is circulated, the basic functions are performed because of this incoming water stream and outgoing water stream. You know how? The food material which is present inside this water, that will be absorbed by these organisms or the cells of these particular organisms, right? And then the intracellular digestion will take place. Enzymes will act upon it, the food is digested, and besides this, the undigested food material will be diffused out, and it will be taken away from the body through this outgoing water stream, right? And besides this, it also helps in providing oxygen for the process of respiration. In this, the dissolved oxygen which is present, it is diffused inside the body or the body cells, and the respiration is therefore possible. So this the simple of these life processes, they take place in a very simple way, and that is possible because of the canal system, right? Or the pores which are present in the body of these organisms. Next is the reproduction. Generally, these organisms, they reproduce by asexual mode of reproduction, and the common mode that is followed by these organisms is I'm sorry, excuse me, it is fragmentation and budding, right? Fragmentation, in which a small piece of colony or this small part of the body is able to reproduce, it is able to multiply, and then it is able to differentiate so as to develop into a into this or this individual organism. Fine. Beside these, they can, some of them can also reproduce by the sexual mode. These may be hermaphrodite, that means both the sexes are present in the same organism, or they may be unisexual, that means their sex are present in the separate bodies. So sometimes some of the species, some type of sponges, they can even show the sexual reproduction. Besides this, they are having the skeleton, and this skeleton can be calcareous, it can be siliceous, or it may be proteinaceous. That means it is either made up of calcium, silicon, or the protein. So these are the important basic features which are found in the organisms that belong to group porifera. Besides this, there are some other features or some specifications about these organisms. So let me tell you about that. So this specification is actually regarding the body organization. See, the basic points I have explained here, but some points, they might be coming in your mind, that if they are having no tissue formation, if they are having cellular grade of organization, and they are having such a simple structure, then how they will appear, how will they look? So for that, I must say that these sponges, they look like a vase structure. They may be rounded, or they may be having sac-like or branched body. So with this, what concept, what point, or what picture comes in your mind, what you can imagine? See, for that, I can just tell you that if such discussion is going on, then I can say that they appear like this. Something like this body is there, right? And of course, they may have a multiple growth over there also, like this. And since they are living together here, so there are multiple such vase-like or vase-like such type of structure may be there. Let me show you here, like this, right? And definitely there are pores over there. At the top also there is some pore. So this is how they appear. Fine. And branches are there, that means it is not like this only, it may have some branches over it, like this. Got my point? So this is what these sentences or these organisms they are looking like. Besides that, I said that the body is perforated, right? That means the pores are present all over its body. So these pores must be present here. Fine. It should be like this. See, I'm sorry. Like this. If this is the structure, you can say that these pores are present all over its surface, and definitely at the interior side a broad pore is there. Now these pores which are present here, these are known as ostia, right? And these ostia is a plural form. A single pore is known as the ostium, and all these pores, they open together into a canal system. So water can be circulated from these particular pores into the spongiocele and all over its system, right? Next point is that in this canal system, the water stream which is coming inside, it is not like that all these pores can bring it inside. It is entering inside through the main pore, which is known as the osculum. You can now compare this osculum with the mouth in the higher organisms, right? So that is present here at the top region. Fine. And this osculum brings inside the water stream, which help in the transportation of food and the oxygen. And definitely the outgoing stream of water will take away the waste material also. So this is how it is taking place in a very simple way. The specific examples of these type of groups are or these organisms are like spongilla, cycon, euspongia, euplactilla, etc. Let me show you the pictures. See, these are the specific examples or the pictures of these specific organisms. This first picture is of spongilla, next is cycon, and then their next one is euplactilla. You can see these organisms, how beautiful they are, right? And they are attached over the base, over this substratum. You can see these organisms, they are not free living, and they are having branch structure, as I said earlier, right? They are having the pores, as you can see in its body structure, and the main pore which is present, that you can see here over this in this picture, right? It's so clear here, that is osculum. So this is all about the phylum porifera. Now further, definitely they are further subclassified also, and that we are not of course going to discuss for now. That you will study in the higher classes. For now, I just end up this session, and next we will continue in the next session with the next phylum, that is Coelenterata. So till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.